Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor has embarked on a Fabian programme of brutal tax and spend economics that might please the dwindling number of Labour voters, but is hollowing out the nation's productive base. Those who take risk, invest long-term and create high-quality jobs are increasingly voting with their feet. Record numbers of top earners, the rainmakers who actually bankroll public services, are leaving the UK for good, taking their wealth, but more importantly, their brain power with them. Does the Chancellor even begin to understand the lasting and irreversible damage she is causing to the British economy?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've all watched the honourable member voting with his feet by leaving the bunch of crazies that he was part of before this. Now, let's get back to what this government is actually doing to drive growth, increasing public investment by £120 billion over this Parliament and making sure things get built. Building housing, a default yes for developments around train stations. Building transport, the Lower Thames crossing, the expansion of Heathrow and Gatwick airports. Energy at Sizewell and Wilfer. This is a government backing the builders month after month after month.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the process surrounding the budget was utterly chaotic. We had months of damaging speculation, fuelled by briefings and leaks from the Treasury itself. That included briefings on the 14th of November, which moved markets and gave the appearance, at least, of being deliberately inaccurate, which is why we need the FCA to investigate. But can I ask the Chancellor a simple question? Did she at any point authorise or allow confidential details of the budget or the forecast to be briefed to the press? Yes or no?
Chancellor.
No.
Sir Melstry.
Mr. Speaker, the OBR's own guidance says, and I quote, "The interim rounds are transmitted to the Chancellor in confidence." Yet the Chancellor repeatedly stated before the budget that the OBR had downgraded their productivity forecasts. In her statement in Downing Street on the 4th of November, she said in relation to the OBR's forecast, and I quote, "It is already clear that the productivity performance is weaker than previously thought." Why did the Chancellor breach the confidentiality of the OBR?
Chancellor.
Well, in the spring statement, the OBR were clear that productivity was coming in lower than forecast, and they were clear that they were reviewing that over the summer. The numbers that the OBR had since published showed that in the final pre-measures forecast, the fiscal headroom was just over £4 billion. I was clear in my speech on the 4th of November. I didn't want to reduce the headroom. I wanted to increase it. I increased it to bring back the stability that's much needed in our economy after 14 years of Conservative government.
Mr. Speaker, the biggest issue for those on low incomes is losing their jobs. Does the Chancellor believe there is any link at all between her increase in employers' national insurance contributions, her job tax, and employment levels slumping to a 14-year low?
Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the number of jobs has increased by 329,000 this year. That is the record of this government getting people back into work, and also through the youth guarantee, dealing with the fact that when we took office last year, 1 in 8 young people were not education, employment or training. That is your record. This government are addressing it.
110,000 jobs have been lost in the hospitality sector since this government came to office, and 8 pubs are closing every week, but the Chancellor's made it worse. Jonathan at the Devonport has told me that his business rates are set to treble. Does the Chancellor realise that her budget will cost people their jobs, landlords their businesses and communities their pubs?
Minister.
Let's be clear, nobody's business rate bills are tripling. It's important, as members of Parliament, if we have businesses coming to us to talk about the increases in their rateable values because of the unwinding of the effect of the pandemic, that we are clear on all sides of this House that the government has put in support to make sure that pubs and those who've seen their values go up will not increase next year. If the pub's rateable value is more than £100,000, they'll be capped at a 30% increase. If it's less, they'll be capped at 15% or £800. That's £4 billion of support, Mr. Speaker, that this government is providing.
Tom Page.
The government seems set on pushing through with the family farm tax, despite opposition on these benches and indeed on theirs.
Shame.
Despite this, will the Minister at least revisit the forestalling clause, which would help older farmers in mid-Sussex and across the country avoid the consequences of backdating this legislation?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We at the budget came forward with a revision to the policy to support those people whose spouses have already passed away and made the allowance transferable between the spouses. That is a change will reduce the number of farms that are affected by the agricultural property relief changes from around 500, as was estimated at last budget, to now 375 when coupled with some changes to the underlying economic forecasts. This policy raises money from those with the largest estates in a fair way, and I would encourage members on all sides of the House to consider whether or not we need to... Well, I'll stop there, Mr. Speaker.
Alison Young.
Mr. Speaker, low-income families have been hit by being dragged into tax bands, which they weren't in before, facing energy costs, and now the Chief Executive of Aldi has said that unless the Chancellor reviews her raid on farm inheritance tax, that there's going to be rising food prices hitting low-income families as well. If she doesn't listen to the farmers, will she at least show some concern for consumers and look again at this tax?
Yeah. Chancellor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if you look at what's happened since the budget, the Co-op has cut or frozen the prices on 2,700 essential products at a cost of £1 billion, recognising the impact that the cost of living still poses to families, but also reflecting the budget package which supports our high streets, including our supermarkets.
Stephen Giffins. John Long.
Mr. Speaker, there seems to be only one word that the Chancellor understands: tax. Her decision to continue the freeze on income tax thresholds is a hammer blow to working people. Yeah. In fact, even one of the Chancellor's favourite unions, Unison, has said that freezing personal income tax thresholds disproportionately impacts lower and middle income workers. Yeah. So does the Chancellor agree with Labour Party's union paymaster?
Minister.
I was a bit confused by that question there. You have to forgive me, Mr. Speaker, but the honourable member said that there was one word that was important. Let me give the member one figure, Mr. Speaker: £150. That's the amount we're taking off energy bills next year to help people deal with the cost of living in the here and now, supporting people because of the mistakes that previous governments made, not investing in our energy infrastructure and not investing in our future. We're picking up the pieces where they didn't make the decisions necessary.
So Ashley Fox.
Mr. Speaker, extending the freeze on income tax thresholds will cost working families £900 a year. It will also drag many pensioners into paying income tax for the first time. Why is he hitting these low-income families to pay more for welfare?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would suggest to the honourable member that he asks his front bench why 75% of the impact of people paying more tax at the lower end is a result of the decisions made by the previous government, who spent 7 years freezing income tax thresholds. It's a bit rich to talk about this government doing it for 3 when they did it for 7.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the recently published financial inclusion strategy, the government says, and I quote, "Our aim is to create a culture in which everyone is supported to build a savings habit, building their financial resilience in the long term." Mr. Speaker, what's not to like about that? But that makes the Chancellor's political decisions in the budget even more confusing. And just look at what was announced: reducing the cash ISA limit to £12,000, scrapping a lifetime ISA, capping salary sacrifice schemes at £2,000, increasing tax on dividends by 2 percentage points, increasing savings income tax by 2 percentage points, freezing the repayment thresholds for student loans, freezing income tax thresholds for working people, freezing personal allowances thresholds for pensioners.
No, please, just sit down. No, don't challenge me. It's not a good idea. I'm just going to say, we did do quite a few days on the budget. I think we can all quite remember every point you're making. Is there anything you'd like to add? If you've carried on the list, forget it. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the shadow spokesperson makes reference to a number of changes in the budget which were pragmatic, responsible and fair, and I contrast that with their approach, which would return us to austerity, which would be both irresponsible and unfair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor promised a new golden era of hospitality. But the reality of her business rates raid, as the British Beer and Pub Association has said, is sleepless nights, pay cuts and staff layoffs for publicans who will be paying an extra £13,000 on average. Why did the Chancellor last week tell businesses their taxes were going down when they're going up? And will she think again and change the multipliers?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The multipliers are a product of the change in the valuation, and they did come down, and then we brought them down even further for RHL businesses. I would say to the honourable member that without intervention this year, the bills paid by pubs would have increased by 45% as a result of the increase in value since the pandemic. Because of the significant intervention that this government is making this year, they were going up by 4%. That is the impact of the changes that this government has made.
Mr. Speaker, unemployment is higher today than on the day the Chancellor took office. Would you tell the House why that is the case?
Chancellor.
Well, employment is up since we took office, and part of the reason for the disparity between those numbers is that people who were economically inactive are now seeking work. That's exactly what we want, for people to be seeking work and to get back into work. But there are more jobs in the economy today than when we took office.
Stephen Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Office for Budget Responsibility shows that welfare spending will be £32 billion a year more at the end of this Parliament, just as a result of decisions in the last budget. Why was the Chancellor not more honest in the Labour Party manifesto about the choices she wanted to take?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The welfare state the party opposite created is failing, and we are changing it. Welfare spending rose 3 times as fast under the party opposite than it did under this one because they created a broken welfare system. And to repeat, Mr. Speaker, we will change it.
Report the Chancellor as having said that Labour will be as economically radical as Thatcher. Well, with the closures at Grangemouth and Mossmore and uncertainty over the Acorn project and 1,000 jobs being lost every month in the North Sea, have I finally found a promise that this Chancellor's kept?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as the honourable gentleman knows, we are backing Grangemouth and have put money into the Acorn carbon capture and storage project. We're taking £150 off people's energy bills in Scotland, and in England and Wales, NHS waiting lists are falling. I wonder why they're still increasing in Scotland.